Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Nate Matlack from Matlack Fine Woodworks. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Really good. Thank you. So, Nate, why don't you tell everybody about how'd you get started?
Got started when I was like 12. My dad gave me a pocket knife so I could start carving stuff because I was probably bothering him. But after that, I just kind of kept carving just whenever I was bored. And in high school, took a furniture class and learned how to do traditional kind of Morse 10 and joinery, low level stuff, but still like an entry point. And then after that, kept kind of doing furniture on the side because my dad always had a shop at the house, so I could work there. And then did some framing and construction, finished carpentry, went to a custom home builder, worked in their cabinet shop for a year or two. COVID hit and came out to Denver with no plans. Figured I'd just carve the side of my apartment. And that was enough at that point that I could cover rent and stuff. So did that for 2 years. And now I'm apprenticing for Ethan Hutchinson in Aurora, working on some cool projects and doing my own carving and furniture in my own garage. So trying to kind of work on the experience level, but also generate my own products.
That's cool. So COVID was when you decided to go all in on the wood business?
Yeah, that was when I decided to move out of my parents' house and officially commit to getting my own shop and doing this on my own. So, yeah, kind of worked out for me.
What's been like your main product service that you've been doing?
I do mostly wildlife carvings. That's definitely the most popular thing I do. Recently, it's been a lot of kind of large scale skulls and animal mounts, but I don't know. Could I grab some?
Yeah.
This is the most recent one. Like just a giant ash bull skull. Real horns on there.
Wow.
Still a base, getting ready for that. But a lot of stuff along those lines. Kind of natural horns and then hyper stylized kind of concept car styling skulls.
Talk to me about your first sort of commission. Like, how did you get that?
I was in college and I was an environmental studies major. And I was also doing a lot of studio art classes just because I wanted to make stuff. And I was doing furniture most of the time for those classes. I just take whatever assignment we had, somehow make it into a chair or table or something. And during that, I was kind of starting to post more on Instagram because I never had a private Instagram account. I just started a woodworking one just so I got a portfolio. And I started getting followers on it. And eventually someone asked me to make them something. I think it was a coffee table. And so I did that and then started getting more and more orders. Eventually I became a studio art major and just started kind of making stuff for orders for my assignments and for whatever I could pick to make. But that was how the beginning.
You started making stuff in school and then selling them? Is that what?
Yeah, basically. I was posting projects I was working on and then people started asking me to buy them. And I started doing like custom orders for people, not just stuff I was making. And eventually here we are. But yeah, it was mostly a kind of contemporary art geared school. So I was getting not a lot of kind of approval from my professors on what I was making, but at the same time we're here to try and be productive after we graduate. And here I am selling products. I feel like this is the direction we should go in. But after that, I went to Center for Furniture Craftsmanship in Maine and learned some technical stuff. So it was good.
So you really dived into your craft and like approached it from like a education perspective as opposed to like a, go to YouTube and figure it out, right? Like you
Yeah.
learned
Well,
you learned the technical side.
yeah, my dad's he's a Latin teacher. My mom was an English teacher, now an educational consultant. So kind of a very education based upbringing. And I always like I think all of the kind of components of woodworking as a whole, and they all feed into each other. Like if you think of woodworking as a like sport, and then you think of like making furniture as football or carving as soccer, instead of woodworking as kind of the end goal, it's like being good at all these other things kind of help you be good at woodworking. They all feed into
Yeah.
each other. So I don't want to specialize on anything too much, because with the sculptural stuff, I think it works out that I know how to do like bend laminations, like steam bend stuff. I have all the technical skills from furniture making to make like an actual solid thing. So it gives me a lot more ability to kind of do higher level pieces.
Mm-hmm. So the furniture making lends into this sculptural fabricating, carving stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Like with every
vice
woodworker.
versa.
Yeah. You can start making tables and then you think like, all right, let's try and curve something, or let's try and do this. And eventually you're on YouTube or reading through articles trying to figure out how to do all these crazy technical things.
Yeah. So what do you spend most of your time doing? Is it more furniture or more sculptural stuff?
I spend almost all my time on sculptural stuff. I work for Ethan Hutchinson for 2 or 3 days a week, usually.
Okay.
And that's all furniture building, but at my shop, I just do sculptural things.
What's been your biggest lead generator marketing source?
Instagram. I've been trying to set up a website, but just getting photos and stuff together right now. So I have things to put on there, but Instagram's working out perfectly for me. I have no complaints. Like I don't really need a website at this point, but it'll be good to have. Yeah. So Instagram for sure.
Fascinating. And is it like locally or all over?
All over the place. Weirdly large following in the Middle East, which I'm not sure how, but apparently they have a big woodworking community over there. So yeah, a lot of stuff in kind of Eastern the United States, a little bit in Europe, but mostly kind of domestic.
And you ship all over?
Yeah.
Wow. That's fascinating. How did you price your work?
I just go based on hours of an hourly rate, and then depending on kind of what.
And then you round up or whatever?
Yeah, I usually round up to cover, like gotta get saw blade sharpened. Wild disposables cost. For like with carving, I spend probably 5 hours sharpening per project, and then outside of that, there's not really much consumable cost. Like my gouges aren't going away anytime soon.
Yeah. The only thing is your time. The only thing is your time.
It's just time and then material.
Do you do things off of spec or do you have like a line?
I do a lot of stuff on spec, but I was building time per project for myself, because like people don't come to me frequently with ideas and say like, I want this. And they put out some perfect vision of what they're imagining, but they'll see something I've already made and they'll say, I want that. But since everything's fairly custom and like to order, I don't think ethically I can just recreate things that someone's bought because they're buying it under the impression of this is a custom thing.
One of a kind.
Yeah, exactly. So I can't go back and then just reproduce those things for other people. So I have to change them somewhat each time. But I was building the project so I can have new things on my Instagram I'm trying to sell, because I don't want to get stuck making the same thing month after month. As nice as that would be income wise, it would get very boring.
For sure. Who is your ideal target audience? What kind of person is the person that reaches out and DMs you and is like, I want a skull, Yeah.
I thought for a while it was going to be 30 to 50 or 60-year-old men who were hunters or fishermen or outdoorsmen. And then it turned into the wives of those men are the ones who reach out to me most frequently or something.
As gifts? Okay.
As gifts usually, or is it weirdly popular thing with skulls right now in any interior design magazine? You'll see there's always a skull on the wall somewhere. So they're coming back. So I've sold a lot of those to women apparently, but they like them.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And, I guess too, there's, if you do go into, like a West Elm or one of these high-end design, there's always something that looks like what you build, right?
Yep.
Except you're the one-off. original. What does growth look like for you?
I don't know. I'm kind of at a weird stage at my Instagram right now because my followers split between woodworkers and potential customers. I'm like pretty like 40-60 split on that. So it's kind of trying to decide which direction to go with my Instagram as far as like, do I want to have this be more like an instructional page for the people who are following me for that type of content, or do I want this to be a portfolio page for people to come look and message me about commissioning something? So kind of split I'm at right now, but yeah, I'm not sure. It's hard to market.
Maybe for your business, like where would you like to be in a couple of years?
I'd like to be booked out for multiple years instead of just a couple months at a time. Just a little bit more security with kind of projects.
Mm-hmm.
They're rather year to year than month to month. But
for sure. What do you, in terms of the challenges that you are facing with this style of business, like, is it the type of business where you get a lot of tire kickers?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, you see a block of wood and it's, I mean, you know how much like 8/4 ash costs or 8/4 walnut costs. It's like, it's incredibly expensive right now, but anyone else who comes and sees just a block of wood, they're going to assume $50. Like, like most people have no idea the cost of stuff. And then you think like, all right, how long did it take to carve? People don't have any concept of how long that process takes. So you tell them like the actual price and it will usually catch people off guard, but there's definitely people who come in and know kind of like what they're getting into when they DM me.
Yeah.
It is a lot of like, hey, can you carve my dog for $50? No, I can't. Sorry.
That's gotta be annoying.
Yeah. Every woodworker has that going on.
That's gotta be super annoying. That's awesome. And then, so aside from Instagram, what else are you doing to bring them
in?
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
I can usually get a commission or two a month. Usually takes me a month to do.
And it takes you a month.
So
sure.
It stacks out. And then I'm slightly above that. So I'm building up right now. I'm building up a couple months. Like I'm 8 or 9 months booked out right now. So
that's awesome.
Just trying to get that a little higher.
Cool. So this is a part of the podcast where I give you any marketing or business advice. And so do you have any challenges or things that you like to work through or questions you like to ask that could, help you and obviously help the community?
Well, I like your content on your page. I think you have a very good kind of, your page is aesthetic and then your content's all very consistent. And for me, content and kind of where content is headed right now is very difficult to do because it's headed towards more quantity, less quality. It's short form, like with TikTok and Reels kind of competing with each other, and that being how you succeed on Instagram. For my work, that doesn't really kind of translate well because like if you're making a table, the progress is fairly quick. Like you can show the process of that with carving. Folks in there for 50-60 hours. It's minimal work being done at a time that's moving around a lot. So it's very hard for me to make content that's engaging in any way. It's just, I'm taking off a scoop of wood every 30 seconds. So just kind of how to engage with my audience or become more of a, I don't know, and a person on Instagram, unless it's just a kind of portfolio. Because I think the personality part of that and like actually being a person on Instagram is important. You don't want to just be a business. But again, I've never had an Instagram for myself. So the whole idea of being on Instagram is to me. But so how do you work through that? How do you get that?
So Instagram, when I first hopped on, I think it is maybe 6 or 7 years ago at this point for this account, it was very different than it is right now. And again, you could get away with like a photo back in the day and get a lot of engagement, but now Instagram, which is, kind of my preferred platform, is they're forcing you to do reels, right? To compete with TikTok, like you said. And so one thing that I would suggest if I look at your account is, you can utilize pinned posts to sort of walk people like it's a sales funnel for you. And so one of your pinned posts could be about me, right? And I like like you have a very interesting, unique background, right? Like you're a carver. We don't have too many carvers on the podcast. And you're truly an artist. You know what I mean? Like you're an artist, with craftsman skills, right? Like you could build
The balance.
anything. And so I would say one of them would be an about me. So like you have one that is about you. And another one is your process, like how you work. And then the third one could be, because you could do up to 3 posts. And then the third one is like a portfolio of stuff that you've done. And then as it relates to your content, like your daily content, showing process is good, but also telling stories. I don't know if you've noticed on TikTok, like if you follow somebody on TikTok, they people repeat the same theme over and over and over again. It's because people forget, and you have to constantly be reminding people about yourself.
Yep.
Just because we're annoyed with it, that doesn't mean your audience is. And it's about relatability. And so here I'm looking at you, Nate, like young guy who is chasing his dreams, doing what he loves for a living, right? Like you could probably attract a newer clientele or relate to, the moms of those men, right? More if you incorporate more of yourself and show your face more. I literally just posted one of my coaching clients on their page. They had a picture of their kid. And I said, I bet you if you showed your face, you'll sell more. And she was like, I don't want to bet you because you're always right. And then the next day she texted me and she said, I'm so glad I didn't bet you because I got 2 table orders because I showed my face. And it's like this weird thing that like we as creators and makers, we think our work needs to come first, when now it's flipped. You need to show, you need to be a personality who makes the work. And it is definitely a mindset shift because people are, everybody's self-conscious, no matter how good looking, how big you're, small, what color you are, we're all self-conscious. And so the mindset thing that I always say is, if you knew that by sharing yourself more, that you would sell more and relate to your audience more, would you do it? Absolutely. Right. Like if you knew that you could be booked out for 2 years, I mean, there's kind of a reason why some of these, like, even if you look at like Blacktail Studio, right? Like, Blacktail Studio, right?
Yeah. Foxy.
Yeah. So, he's a personality and he's booked out, right? Like he is himself. He's more of a content creator than like a maker, but like he monetizes the stuff that he makes. And you have the opportunity to do that. Again, you had talked about a little bit about your 2 different paths. Should you do more for makers or more for clients? In what I hear from what we were talking about, that you want to be an artist and you want to sell your work and have it live in people's home, and you want to creatively self-express yourself. You would probably be shortchanging your clients if you went down the path of trying to be like a content creator.
Yep.
And
I'm
so
too niche for it.
Right. And so for me, I'm thinking like connect more with those women, connect more with your ideal target audience, connect more with those men, right? Like think about, and I would dive in just a little bit more and start engaging and following those accounts to where you think they are. Right. And again, I'm thinking you're in Colorado. There's probably some like big time real estate developer who lives in Aspen, Colorado. He might have like a jet, right? That would pay easily for one of your skulls to be in his house. Right?
Yep.
There's probably somebody in Jackson Hole that wants your stuff, right? And it's like, it's got this crazy, luxurious mountain aesthetic to it, right? And they know you. And so for you, content wise, I would lean into your inspirations. I would lean into the music that you listen to. I would lean into your process, right? Even if it's like hey, this is what I'm doing today. Like, oh, I just did my first podcast interview, right? Like you just kind of take people along this journey so that in the end, people are sold by the time they hit your DMs. By the time they're in your DMs, they're sold.
All right. Bring that percentage up. Yeah.
Was that helpful?
That's very helpful. It's not what I wanted to hear, but that's exactly what I needed to hear. I don't like the personality side of it, but I will definitely work on that because it does seem to be the way to go through. But as far as Instagram paywalls go now, did that open up an opportunity to kind of monetize that DIY audience that people have? Because I noticed a lot of people kind of have started splitting their base with that, because that means I can hide all my DIY content. Or not, I don't want to call it DIY. This is how I do this content for people who are interested in that, but aren't never going to buy anything from me. And then I can use but you just put it for like $1, put it for the lowest cost.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could, but to me, so, and this kind of goes to everybody that's listening to this, like there's always a trade-off with time, because then you're now starting to think about what can I offer this person versus this person. Whereas if you just had one thing that you did, and I mean, if anything, like potentially it's, some smaller, lower priced items that for a couple $100 that somebody can have from you, right? Like maybe that's a thing that you launch, right? Maybe you crowdsource some ideas from folks, you vote, and then you only make 10 of 10 or 20 of 20, right? And that's something that you do that you can fill in between those bigger projects. Like that's probably an approach that I would do it. But like, I got offered the subscription thing and I'm like, what could I potentially, but again, it's an extra thing.
Yeah. I thought of it more as I don't want to monetize my Instagram in that way. I want my products to be what I'm getting paid for, not my content. If I can get paid for the content, sure, but it's got to be, I don't want to do it for a couple bucks a month.
Yeah.
I just thought of it more as like, that seems like an easier way to split your profile without having to create a new profile. Like you can just create a free color, like whatever, for a cent, like just so I can have another side of my Instagram where I can post those like less interesting videos that my main audience probably wouldn't be interested in.
That's probably what I would use stories for.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And if people want more, maybe do a story and a poll and says, hey, if I were to do some premium subscriptions, would you sign up for $1? Yeah. And if you could get 50 people to say yes to $199, I don't even know if that would be worth it. It's got to be like 300 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
It would have to add up pretty heavily.
It would have to add up for the time. And you'd probably make more money if you have if devoted to catering to your ideal client instead of other woodworkers. You know what I mean?
I just feel bad telling people in my DMs all the time. I get 50% of my messages are like, hey, what tool do you use? How do you do this? What are you doing for that? And like, I don't want to be like, leave me alone. I don't want to.
You could, again, do it in stories. Do a story and then save it as a highlight and say, hey, look, these are all the tools that I use in my highlights. And so like one of who I had on the podcast, JML Woodcraft, he makes beautiful, like high-end charcuterie boards and tables and stuff. I told him, because I started asking, I was like, you know what? You should set up an Amazon affiliate link and post it there. And so now he's got an Amazon affiliate and he's got a story with tools I use, a story highlight, and then you can just go and get it from there. Like super simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Creating content is hard. If you're going to create content, it should be for your ideal target audience, not for other woodworkers. I love you woodworkers, but you need to stop marketing to other woodworkers, right? Market to your ideal target audience. Cool. Nate, well, thank you so much, man. Any last bit of parting advice for the Woodpreneur community?
Just take time for yourself to work on projects you want to work on for yourself. Don't get stuck in a rut doing the same thing. Explore ideas.
Awesome.
Work, I guess.
And what's your Instagram?
Matlack, Fine Woodworking.
Okay. Matlack, Fine Woodworking. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Nate, thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood, flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.